So now we are going to make the, yes, we are going to make the room changes, and we start as the alpha room is finishing. So thank you. Third talk of this morning, and the last one of this morning, and after there is food. I know you are waiting only for food, but you have one last talk to listen. And this is interesting because it's about cats. And we have plenty of cats around here because we are showing a hat, but we have a cat. But yeah, okay. So the speaker of today is Paolo Insogna. He is newly, because it's nothing 1 month, it's a few weeks, couple of weeks. He's a Node.js TSC committee member. You use Node.js? Someone use Node.js? Maybe some code of him is currently working your processes at work.
Probably broken something in your
Yeah,
probably.
it's his fault. So you know how to. Why is it him? It's blame. So his talk is about from smart home to smart cats.
Yep.
He has maybe 6, 7, or probably 8 cats. I don't know. He's confused about that. He still can count them. And he's talking how he extend his home automation to his pets. And I think it's a funny talk to listen, to hear it. So the stage is yours, Paolo.
Thank you very much. Hello, folks. So David already told the title, so we can just skip it. Before getting to the meat, I wanted to introduce Nearform, which is the company that have sent me here today. We are a professional services company, fully remote. We are tons of people, 400 now, and counting. Probably it's already updated, but I'm too lazy to update it, so 400 and plus. As you can see, many countries, many customers, we like to brag, many engagements, a lot of experience. I'm not the only TSC, we have a lot of TSC members in the past. We still have a lot of contributors now or alumni of Nearform. And parts that which you really care about is that we are always looking for new talents, and Italy is one of our main funnels. So if you're interested to work for a very nice remote company, talk to me at the end of the stage. Or eventually to Marco, which is supposed to be here but is missing. I will chat with him about it. Bad person. Anyway, I say I'm gonna listen to your talk. Can you see him? I don't. So whatever. Let's move on. So, like they say, no automation, no party. That's the gist of today's talk. You can actually leave, but that's actually a problem for several reasons that I will show you later. I'm not going to reintroduce myself, but I just have a question for you. For the person that never met me, never know me, never saw my talks, where do I come from? Go for it. Come on. That's fine. You're justified. What about you, Fox? Go for it. Where do I come from? Come on. Okay, which city? You know me, that guy cheated, for the record. Yes, I come from Campobasso, and for non-Italian people, for the record, the reason why I'm asking them is because they pretend that our region simply doesn't exist, because we are so non-meaningful for the rest of Italy. They joke about, they don't know where you are, you don't exist, there is just sea over there, that's why. So, that was an Italian joke, forget about it. Yes, but come there, you gain 5 kilos and much happiness, so come visit me, okay? These are my handles. I just redesigned my website, so if you take a look and see how horrible the design is, I would be great, please. And you can find them online on Shogun Panda on GitHub. I should update the icon, but once again, I'm lazy. P_Insogna on Twitter and P_Insogna on LinkedIn. Anytime, ping me. Okay, we finally get to today's matter. So, in the recent years, a lot has changed in our lives that we don't even realize, especially if you are way younger than me and few people here, basically. But basically, it's very uncommon that networking is everywhere. 10 years ago, internet was not as available as it is today, and don't make it start about 20 or 30 years ago. And in our Western countries, most of us have a smartphone. So you remember the quote, there is an app for everything, right? For 2007, if I'm not mistaken. And if you connect the two things, of course, you get to the ideas that why don't install a network chip pretty much anywhere, even when it's supposed not to be there, for instance, smart rings, to give you an idea. And Internet of Things was just a matter of time because you can literally automate everything you have. And that comes to the matter of today. As my bio says, I'm literally surrounded by lovely chubby cats, so that's how we keep them up. If they're not chubby, we don't consider them for adoption. They must be chubby with a very huge belly. So these are few of my cats there. And the things that I deeply love these fellas a lot. I love this fella. I love being surrounded, climbed by those things. Basically, they just love to mess with me. And the problem is that in this world, there are basically three types of people. So raise your hand if you belong in one of this category. People who worship cats. Raise your hand. Okay, good percentage. So you will enjoy this talk. Go for it. There are people who are fine with cats. Raise your hand if you fall in this category. Okay, this problem means that you're here for the home automation part. I can still live with it. And there is the third one. People who hate cats, get the F out, please. If you fall in this, go away. Go away. If you fall in that category, just go away. I don't want to mess with you, but go away, please. Anyway, that was a joke, kinda, but I'm serious. Please leave. So here's the thing. Since I'm an engineer, I have, of course, to actually raise your hand if you agree with this sentence. In our profession, we love to control everything, even despite of programming. Raise your hand if you agree. Okay. So you get why I started automating their lives. Why not, right? So they just think about eating, go for there. And also, I had to do that also to save my mental health, because the problem was that my wife kept collecting new cats. So you keep adding new cats and new cats. So we moved to the new house. We just had one cat that we will see later. And in 1 year, we had to 6 cats, like you said earlier, in just 1 year. So I have to do something to maintain my mental health during the daily routine. Now, I have to make a little disclaimer about this. In this talk, I'm going to mention many brands, many devices. I'm going to say that some devices are good, some are bad. But the thing is that I'm not advocating pro or against any brand. Nobody knows I'm here. Fun fact, the other time I gave this talk, one of the brands were actually in the audience just by coincidence. And it was one of the, say, they're very good, luckily. But they don't know I'm actually here. And so whatever I'm saying is my personal, oh, here you are, you're late, dude. Basically just my very personal opinion. And also, personally, even in the sense that these devices, when I say are good for my personal use case, not in general. I'm just saying, for me, are good. For you, might be different devices, okay? And let's start. First of all, say hello to Brie. I will introduce him later. One thing, remember, we have a game today. So remember all my cats' names. It will come up later, just saying. It's not a coincidence that I actually wrote them down. So, Brie, it was the very first one. Fun fact, is actually an American cat. We adopted him in 2012 in California. He's actually a domestic short-hair American cat. And he was weighing like 6.5 kilos. So he's pretty, as American, he's big. How the home automation fairy tale started in my house? Well, with the home alarm system, which the thing is that is not just an alarm system, it's a huge automation system. Is from the company Xenia, which is an Italian company based in Pesaro in Italy. And it has a comprehensive solution with every kind of device you can think about. And believe me, these guys are insanely cool. Their system is very, very cool, extensible. nice API, nice SDK. They're doing an amazing job, and it just works perfectly fine. They're very, very nice. And the thing is that their protocol is based on WebSocket. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to extend it. Is widely supported because it's what they use in their API and in their application, in their app for the iPhone. So they support this WebSocket. They have a documentation. And once you get in some conventions, it's pretty easy to develop a SDK for your own usage. Once you get the documentation, you're fine. You're good to go. And you can start integrating with their system, which is just very nice. Now, you basically protected the outside of your house. Now you get to the inside. First of all, say hello to Kali. For the record, this lad is missing in action. I have no idea where she is. I hope she comes back home, but he's missing for several months now, unluckily, due to snow, whatever. Come home, please, if you can, eventually. But what is the idea here? We have to optimize the climate control inside the house. In my house, I have, which is a standalone house, it's not an apartment, it's basically a full villa. Basically, we have two devices. The first one is a water pump, heater pump, basically, electric, since I have solar panels, and is a Panasonic Aquaria device, which can either heat in the winter or cool down your house with with pavement heating, which is, if you have to ever build your house, I strongly recommend it. It's just amazing. You basically can heat your house just by going by 40 degrees rather than the 70 required by the usual water system in Italy. So just a recommendation. As a secondary heater, since I live in the coldest city in Italy, for no reason. I mean, Molise is not supposed to be so cold, but it actually is. So we have a secondary device, which is a Ferroli Blue Helix heater, which is fueled by gas. And actually not even the metano gas, but actually the GPL gas, because I live outside of the city, whatever. But this little fella here, even though there is an Italian name, Italian manufactured, the cloud system is connected to a CDN in China. So I literally gave up here and integrated with my devices because it's completely sealed. I give up there. I just give up because, no, please. Anyway, how do we control those devices? First of all, at very first attempt with Panasonic, I tried to use their service website API. I tried to sniff them. And I found one of the most amazing, in the worst end, obviously, API I ever found. I was actually able to integrate with them after a long struggle, but then their quality of service killed me forever. So I say, you know what, I'm done. No, that's nothing I can live with it every day. But luckily, I made the search on GitHub, and somebody hacked their firmware, and now we have a local firmware that just uses the MQTT protocol locally. So I'm not on their cloud anymore. I just talk locally. Easy. At the end of the day, for the water pump, I don't have anything to do because the pavement heater is supposed to be put at a steady temperature all across the day. So I just read it, but I never actually act it. I just want to know the temperature of the house. I'm done with it. That's fine. At the end of the day, I'm eating a 300 square meters house with electricity, right? Shall I buy a power plant? Actually, say hello to Cleo. Anyway. Now, shall I buy a power plant? Let's see. Question for the audience. And don't make me mad, please. Who gets the quotation on top? Please. Please, somebody. Come on. Grazie. Thank you. Last time, nobody got it. Really. We are too old. Don't make me say that. Nobody said that. So that's an Italian 80s cartoon with a giant robot, that entree, for whoever knows that. Anyway, doesn't matter. It was just an Easter egg, and last time I was very disappointed by this. But anyway, what happens? In my house, I have solar panel on top, 18 kilowatt power, and basically was able to decrease my power electricity bill by 66%. Period. So that's very, very huge. And I installed a Fronius Primo inverter in order to basically get this electricity. And this guy is amazing. They just expose an HTTP API, connect to your local IP, make a request, do whatever you want. Done. Easy. There is the documentation, the smoothest integration ever. Nothing else to do really here. And eventually you might say, but you still use Gus to move, right? And anyway, say hello to Freya, she's no longer here, unfortunately, but she was amazing. She was just amazing. Not really. I don't use a Gus because I have a Tesla. I mean, I'm an engineer supposed to have a Tesla, right? Probably. Probably. when I say people, oh, I have a Tesla, oh, of course you have a developer. Well, there is no correlation to that. They are very good cars, but it's not related to part that I have a Tesla. But whatever. And for the record, I should add a new slide about the Tesla because I made integration with my house for the Tesla. I will add it later for whatever. Anyway, I got a wall box in my house in order to charge my car at home with 7.4 kilowatt due to my system. So the ABB Terra AC wall box is pretty cool. It's very, very good one. Now my new enemy is Enel. For the record, is the Italian electricity company because they mess with my voltage level in my house. They are under voltage, upper voltage. They're just trying to burn everything I have in my house for some reason. Please somebody help my devices, but whatever. So how do you control the ABB Terra? There's supposed to be a standard which is the OCPP, which is supposed to be open. Surprisingly, nobody ever wrote a Node.js implementation, and I didn't have the time to write it by myself, so I gave up on that. I was able to write a Modbus actually adapter, which is basically you physically connect some wires to the wall box, and you can read it like a serial device. That way, I was able to basically read values from my wall box and get to know when my car is charging, which power level, and so forth. And you might say, stop talking about your house, we don't care. Let's get to automating cats' lives, right? Let's go there, give me the cats. Yes. At the beginning, it was this guy's fault. It was Bree's fault, because raise your hand if you can relate, they are always hungry. They always want to eat. They're vocalizing all day long in order to get food. Raise your hand if you ever have to deal with something like that. Yes, you know what I'm talking about, right? And raise your hand if you think that they are more accurate than an atomic clock when they want food, right? You know that, right? So the thing is that no matter if you have a life, you have to try to feed them several times a day. In case of Bree's day, was 4 times a day. And that persistent stating is not about children. Cats will kill you, will basically mess with your brain and prevent you to do anything. So I say, I have to find a solution for this, otherwise I'm done. Either I strangle him or I will strangle myself, but I have to finish in some way. So I have to find a solution for it. And thanks to progress, I found a solution. That device is a fresh element solo feeder. It's very cool because it's basically as a very precise, controlled by an application, which unfortunately have a questionable UX. And I want to be gentle when I say questionable. As a developer, I was basically killing myself every time I opened the application. So of course, the next question was, how can I avoid using that application, right? So how do we control it? Well, there is just an API. They expose they don't expose, but somebody reverse engineer their API, pretty much, but it's a public API anyway. Their authentication, since Graziano was talking about open policy, is questionable. MD5 password, don't make big thing about it, but whatever. They have a very nice API. The only problem is that accuracy of the API when it comes to open the tray is questionable. So my cats probably, due to my choice, get some weight for this due to this device. I don't care. I want them chubby, so that's fine. But probably whatever. Now, let's overcomplicate things. Let's get even more complicated. Otherwise, it's too easy. Anyway, say hello to Yuna. This guy adopted himself. Came to my house. He said, "I want to stay here. I will never leave." We was adopted. Whatever. But okay. As I was saying earlier, in 2020, we moved. Of course, during COVID, why not? And we moved to center of Campobasso to the border of Campobasso, technically another town, but doesn't matter. And now we also have to deal with wild animals. Like we have to worry if you eventually open the door, then there is a boar looking at you for no reason. Or if there is a fox just going across your garden, again, for no reason at all. And therefore, we have to protect these fellas from these animals. First of all, actually, say hello to Kuro, anyway. And how we protect them? You can't beat a classic. That's funny thing is that the solution was something we already do to our cats, and it's very easy. Yeah? Please raise your hand if you have a cat which has microchip. Just you. What the fuck? Guys, protect them. If they got lost, insert a microchip in your cat to identify them. But the fun fact is that that chip, which at the end of the day is just an RFID chip, which is a 50 years old technology, can also be used for smart doors that only open if your cat is next to it. If a random cat, a fox, or whatever, they shop, that it doesn't move. If your cat is there, it unlocks. Easy. Very, very easy solution. It has a small hub, which is also very, very sexy shape, whatever. And once again, you can control via an HTTP API. In this case, actually, the API is not supposed to be public, but it turns out that their application for the iPhone and probably for Android is a React native application. So it has an HTTP API. Somebody sniffed the website, reverse engineered the API, and now you can not just use the API, as usual, whatever. And some people on GitHub also, since they also got lost of the API, which is, to say the least, is very slow, they're trying to make a custom firmware that will be controlled locally by MQTT. Now, why is that? Think about this. The way this device works is that eventually I open the application. I send an API request to the server. The server sends a message to a MQTT broker on AWS that eventually is listened by my device locally. Think about how much it takes for a message to be broadcasted. When I close the door via API, it takes 15 seconds for the message to be delivered. If I have to stop my cats from preventing from executing, I'm already chasing down over the woods. Basically, it's useless. But anyway, if I scheduled in advance, it's totally fine. And now, if you remember the title of this talk, was not just about cats, was about automation to pets. And say hello to Snappy Shine, also known as Bracciolone, which is my wife's horse. So there is also an horse in my house. And last time I was in Bologna and I was leaving at midnight and people asked me, where are you going? Oh, you know, I have to go to Termoli in Molise to buy hay for my horse because he's also allergic to normal hay. Think about it. Whatever, right? Now, unfortunately, that was a scam. I could not automate his life yet. It will, stay tuned, it might happen in the future somehow. I have to find a way just to make my wife very mad. But I could automate his life. So say hello to Oscar. How could I automate Oscar's life? Well, the thing is that if you have a water tank, you know that there must be only certain amount of light, right? And that's when the Shelly comes into place. A smart dimmer with smart plugs, so I can turn on and off a certain period of time during the day. So I can limit the amount of lighting on the water tank. Shelly are the root of all divorces for this kind of people because they are literally made for people like us that like to play with stuff. They support every protocol you can imagine, or eventually application for normal people, but for non-normal people like us, they support every protocol you can possibly imagine and are made for the jigs. That's the problem. That's a big problem. And it also helped with Christmas, because with the same logic, I got a Shelly to automate the turning on and off of the Christmas tree light, right? Why not? That was too easy, right? You know, this trip is ending so badly, because the thing is that these devices are very cheap, except you try to automate every possible switch in your house, and you have a big house, and you have too many switches. I'm not gonna make the count, but at the end of the day, Shelly has got a lot of money from me. Don't tell my wife again. And that's my house. And we kinda close with Loki, which is one of my last cats. Okay, brief. That was all the devices I had in my house, okay? The thing is that, how do they relate to Home Assistants in general? So we have Apple HomeKit, Google Home, Alexa, Home Assistant. There is one from Samsung, one from Xiaomi. There are a lot of them. Now, let's talk about them. The hidden truth of this system that they don't usually tell you, except for maybe Home Assistant, is that they don't reinvent the wheel. They don't have enough time to reinvent the wheel. So that at the end of the day, they always use existing technologies. For instance, HomeKit uses HTTP or BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. Same for Home Assistant that has specific integration and so forth. All they do is a presentation layer. They just connect the dots and they expose usually a semi-public API. I say semi-public because, for instance, HomeKit gives open source documentation, and if you pay, they give you the commercial documentation that expose more device types because they want you, of course, to pay a license. But in theory, anybody could write a new integration. The API are often very verbose, but in theory, you could do, like I did, right? So, this was my the Perseveranza technical stack. What is Perseveranza? Perseveranza, my house, I called it Villa Perseveranza for auto-blessing of what you are supposed to do in life, right? So, what is my technical stack? Well, Node TSC member, so if Node was not here, that was an issue, right? So, Node.js, of course, as the runtime. Redis as a data storage, because in Redis you can pretty much store everything. You can always use Redis and it will never disappoint you for any kind of usage, whatever. Mosquito, which is something that at the beginning was frightening me because it was from Eclipse Foundation. So I thought, okay, I'm going to download something that literally eats my RAM, but actually no, it's very lightweight, and is a MQTT publisher and subscriber, so basically a broker. Very, very nice and easy to use. No configuration file. Run the executable, you're good to go. Amazing, just amazing. Then, of course, Fastify. You can tell Matteo there was a logo there, so don't say anything. And HAP, which is the Home Assistant Home Application Protocol, which is the protocol under Node HomeKit, since I have all Apple devices. At the beginning was Homebridge, which also has a presentation layer. Then I realized that I don't actually need the presentation layer. I just left the protocol implementation, and I do everything for myself. And GraphQL for querying when I want to develop a web UI or something like that, just because it's very easy to use. Now, I'm pretty sure that you want some details. First of all, say hello to Mora. Anyway. No, I'm not going to give you any details. This talk is an entire scam. You're not going to see any single line of code. And I tell you at the end of the talk, obviously. No, actually, there is a good reason for that. In this project, first of all the code is a private repository, so I literally have nothing to show unless you catch me outside. I can eventually show on this laptop. But for instance, Luca asked me and I say, why can't I show you anything to the audience? Because it's ton of lines of code there in order to connect all these devices. And also, it's completely opinionated code. You probably won't like how I split them. Some choices that I made, because it's not meant to be generic code. It only suits my case and might not work for your case, like I said earlier, for devices. That's the problem. And lastly, you are developers, you know how to deal with APIs. Please don't be lazy. Come on, do your homeworks, okay? You can do that. That's nothing common, more than calling an API and storing the data somewhere. Now, let's play a little game now. We finally go to the game area. What is her name? Raise your hand. Come on. Close. Nope. No? No, you actually got it wrong, but not with all the letters. Who said that? Yes. That was clear. You won a shirt, right? Yes. Yes. Round of applause, please. Okay, very quickly. Amazing. Anyway, we're done, though, Davide. I promise we're done. First of all, few quotes from all my talks. Usually, that's how I close all my talks, so few quotes here. First of all, Plinius the Elder, Plinio il Vecchio, because when I know this, who is Plinius the Elder? Then I translate it in Italian and say, oh, what the hell? He's very famous. But for some reason, I was not relating in English. Don't ask me why. But anyway, home is where the heart is. Simple, plain, relatable, right? But actually, the real quote that we need nowadays is this one. In ancient times, cats were worshipped as gods. They have not forgotten this. That's pretty much it. Terry Pratchett always get it. We know that's true, right? We treat them more than ourselves. We have better food than ourselves, and so forth. You know the deal, how it works. Now, usually this was my ending slides where I was actually thanking you, but this time, and that's why I usually say I have 8 cats, I have 6 cats, I want to remember the few cats that are no longer with my family, and this is very special, so I'm going to say that I miss them a lot. Folks, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paolo.
Yep.
So, we have room for questions now. Okay, perfect.
Wow, that was fast.
First of all, very nice talk.
Thank you.
I've been playing a little bit with Home Assistant as well.
Yep.
And I have 2 questions. One is because you presented 4 options.
Yep.
One is, what is your opinion of the Home Assistant solution?
Yep.
And second, what is the hardware that you would run it on? I'm using Raspberry and I have mixed.
Yeah. To start, when I look into Home Assistant, I found very verbose the way it's supposed to be configured, at least what I got from the documentation. And at some point I realized that if I have to write such a long documentation that I only write once, but I have to read a lot of docs, it's easier if I rule my own system, which practically does the same. Because in my house, since I don't often add new devices, there's no point of configuring a home automation system this extensible if I already know which devices I'm running. That's pretty much it. So every time I add a new device, I eventually update a YAML file, but there is no reason for me to have such open system that is meant to be generic, and therefore, in order to tailor down to my needs, I have to do a lot of workarounds and so forth. So that's why I basically stay with my own custom. Of course, Home Assistant is amazing. I'm not saying, once again, for my specific needs was too much, so I strip it down to something simpler at the beginning. Then I got out of control with the architecture, but that's another topic, whatever. About the hardware, I also got the same problem, because for instance, I have, now I expose something like 60 devices in my house, so HomeKit is struggling too much. Think about this. Every cat in the control door counts as a device. Every feeder counts as a device. Every switch counts as a device, and so forth. You can easily see how you get 60. Every door, every alarm system, and so forth. Raspberry are struggling because there are too many. There are bursts. Basically, the HomeKit will ask for updates from the devices all at once. So at the end, at some point, you get a lot of requests very fast. And there might be real-time problems on Raspberry. That's why I'm basically using as a home server a very, very old Mac from my wife's Mac from 2009, which has a server without a UI with Ubuntu on top, works just perfect, because it's underutilized and just fine.
I still have Home Assistant on my Raspberry with an SSD attached to it.
Yes, you see the
because microSD is not. It's a point of failure in doing because due of the high amount of writing stuff.
They die suddenly, but basically it's a mess.
But I don't know why my Raspberry always dies alone. And it's not so
That's why
resilient. So, is there any questions? Perfect.
Thanks for the talk.
You're welcome.
How much is the total power consumption of the system, and is it sustainable with your solar panels? Have you accumulators?
I don't have accumulators. They suggested me not to install them because it was basically a waste of resources. I have a solar panel system. Actually, they are pretty cheap because the consumption of for instance, of the device is below 100 watts hour, all the system, except for the heater. But the heater is basically heating the house, so it basically can consume 3 kilowatt in the peak. But that's a completely separate story. The rest of the devices are 100 watts because they're very low power devices, all of them. So it's 100 watt hour, so it's 2 kilowatt per day, roughly, watt hour per day.
Other questions? Perfect. other jogging time.
Our enemy.
Yes.
So you're only using Wi-Fi based devices, or you're
No.
also using other like Zigbee, Z-Wave?
Oh, in the sense. No, they are
Thread?
all network. All network.
All network.
Yes. The thing is that I'm trying to get rid of all needs for hubs and similars. So if a device can directly connect to the network, it's easier. It's just that. The only device that needs a hub in my house is the pet door, basically. That's the only things that has a. But they also have a closed protocol, so I have no idea whether they're using Zigbee, radio, or whatever. I have no idea. It's a closed protocol. But basically, the idea is that the general rule is that if the device is not Zigbee and is connected to a network, there is probably an API you can exploit. And that's what I usually consider as a choice when I'm evaluating a new device.
So in my experience, Zigbee is pretty good because you can send all the stuff to MQTT and then you have everything there.
Yeah,
So
yes, yeah.
it's also a nice choice.
Good to know, good to know.
Other questions? Perfect. No jogging this time.
Move around, so we have to follow you. Yep.
Could you briefly describe your process of discovering an exposed API?
I will disappoint you a lot. Open the browser, GitHub, device name, done. I will this disappointing as hell, I know that. But
Great.
usually the idea is that when I'm evaluating a new device, I check on GitHub if there is somebody that play with that. If there is somebody, I look at their documentation, or even sometimes, for instance, they have an integration in another language. But if there is an integration in another language, I know that at the end of the day they are calling some API internally, so I basically read their source code. If I see that it's pretty easy to use, I buy the device.
Cool. Thank you.
That's it.
Other questions? I don't see any
Anybody? Oh, amazing.
hands, I think. Someone going to, I hope, if I come here and I turn around, I see a man right there.
That's amazing. It's just amazing.
So no more question, I think. So,
All good?
but you have the skill, because one thing that I love is when come Christmas, because you told about the Christmas tree.
Yes.
I have also a Shelly. I configure in Alexa and I say, Alexa, turn on the Christmas tree.
No, it's too much effort. You have to schedule that. You schedule it once, you're done.
Yeah, it's also scheduled.
Yes.
But I have also, because maybe it's not in the schedule, the exact schedule, so the friends are coming, Alexa, turn on the Christmas tree.
Yes, you see that. But
Oh yeah.
actually, for the record, it was not just the Christmas tree. It was Christmas tree, exterior lights, and exterior lights, reindeer lights, because we bought some reindeer made of lights, whatever. You know, the Christmas spirit, right? Yes, that's it.
I think he puts also the Christmas light on the horse too. So
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
So, without further ado, I acknowledge you with another cat.
Whoa,
Yeah.
amazing. I have
It's
9.
9 cat is Shrody. So he's a, or you can call it whatever you want.
That's so cool.
And have a nice applause for Paolo and his
you.
cats. Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you very much, folks.